Welcome to Legal Cyber Academy, and today I'll be showing you how to make an image using FTK. To start, you're going to open FTK, go to the top left and hit File. From there, go down and hit Create Disk Image. Next, a menu will open up with a few different options. The first is a physical drive, which, as the name suggests, is a physical storage device or an entire drive with all the partitions and allocated space, which will go through every sector. The next option shown is a logical drive, which is a specific partition or volume shown on the physical drive. Following that, we have an image file, which is a bit-for-bit copy of a physical or logical drive. It's basically just a snapshot of the drive's contents at a specific point in time. We also have contents of a folder or a Furnico device. Since I'm using a USB for this example, I'm going to select physical drive as my option. Next, choose your source drive. For me, that's the USB drive. Now we're on the Create Image menu. Here you will see Verify Images after they are created and a little checkbox next to it. I would check that box just because it verifies the integrity of the image we're making, and it could help with chain of custody, for example in legal proceedings, or with error detection to see if there are any issues or errors during the process. To the right, there's another checkbox with Pre-calculate Progress Statistics. This is mainly just used for a time estimate and a progress bar. However, they're never really that accurate. Underneath, we have our last option here, which is to create directory listings of all files in the image after they're created. This mainly just serves as a quick overview of all the contents and can be useful as a reference for later on, but because this is a test and my image won't be that big, it's not really necessary, so I'll just leave it unchecked. Above those options, we have image destination or destinations, so click on Add, and then 4 different options will pop up. The first option listed is raw or disk dump. It's a direct copy of the data without any other added features. The next option is smart, which is similar to raw, but it comes with some added features like error checking. E01, also known as encase image file format, is a disk image with added metadata and the option to split the image into smaller files. This is more commonly used on Windows and what we'll be using today. AFF, which is the last option shown here, is more of a flexible type of format since it allows you to add various types of data, notes, and even compress the contents to save space. This is usually more common on Linux and Mac. Next, we have our evidence item information, the first being case number, where usually it's something like a few letters or numbers to identify the case, like an acronym. The evidence number, which is usually in 3 digits, again, just to uniquely identify the evidence. A unique description, which is to provide a brief description of the evidence. For that, I'll be writing USB drive with PS4 OS because that's what I have on the drive. For the examiner, input the person's name who is responsible for the examination of the evidence. And lastly, for notes, provide any additional information or context that may help. For example, it could be including the condition of the device when it was received, any other observations or chain of custody details, things like that. After hitting next, we get to select our image destination. So the top part here that says image destination folder, hit browse. I made a folder on my desktop called FTK test just for this example. Go to desktop, make a folder. You can do it that way, or if you have one you already want it to go to, or a different folder works. Either way is fine. Below we have image fragment size. It's already default set to 1500 megabytes. And if it's set to 0, it won't fragment. Basically, the purpose of fragmenting is just to make it into smaller, more manageable pieces, and the size of the fragmentation you have determines how large each piece is. Below that, we have compression, which goes from 0 to 9, 0 being no compression and 9 being the most. With zero compression, it'll take less time to process, but the overall image size will be bigger. And on the other hand, with 9 being the most amount of compression, the image size will be smaller, but it will take a lot more time to process. And for the bottom option, we have here that says use AD encryption. I would check that just because it ensures the confidentiality of the image you're making, which is a good standard practice when making images. Lastly, you'll want to enter your image file name. For this, I'm just writing test image. However, depending on the image you're trying to make, it probably wouldn't hurt to add the date, the type of image, case, evidence number, or any other descriptive details. And now we're going to hit finish, which will bring us to enter a password for our AD encryption. Here I'm just typing 1234 for my example, but for you, I would definitely recommend a stronger password. We can also add an overflow location, which is helpful for images that are very big, which might be too much to put on a singular drive. We can add that overflow location to be another drive in which it would be split up onto as well. However, I won't be using an overflow location just because my USB drive is not big enough to the point where I would need to use one. At last, we can hit start, and then it should start processing your image. Mine's going to take about 30-ish minutes, give or take, just because of the file size I have. It will depend for you, though. So I'm going to skip ahead so you don't have to wait 30 minutes. After your image is finished processing, a few different hashes will appear to verify the integrity of the image. For all of mine, they're a match, so that means my image is good and hasn't been tampered with, or there haven't been any errors in the process. Now we can close out of both of these, and you can go to the top left and hit File to add evidence item, or hit the button underneath it that also adds an evidence item, which you'll then want to select content of a folder, hit browse, and then select the folder your new image is on. After, you can hit the plus button on the left in the evidence tree to show the segments of your image. Thank you for joining Legal Cyber Academy, and I hope you found this guide helpful.